Vici now get a chance to deliver unto LGD a taste of their own medicine. It's a 4-1 split that secured for them Game 2 as Puff stabilizes the composition for Vici Gaming. They get the chance to kite out fight after fight, play objectives, and pull LGD across the map. Though we saw LGD had their eyes on the prize the entire time, Vici were the ones who were actually able to reach out and grab it and take that Game 2 victory.
It was so smart, and it was so similar to what happened in Game 1. It was an Elder Drake where they could actually lose. It didn't even matter if they secured the Elder Drake or not. The main objective was just to pull all the LGD members to that locations, and they slipped out on the backside, straight into base, and finished the game off. Very smart, and really cool to see a team learning on the fly. It does feel like you were talking about, getting a taste of the same medicine in exactly the same series. Jay was chased out earlier by Kramer in this play, and he doesn't decide to join. He decides to fork. A really smart play. Condi, son of Baron, already secures the Elder Drake, but they can't really back off in time at this moment. And it actually came very, very close. LGD, when it finally came down to it, did get the teleport off, but they missed multiple crowd controls onto Buff. Great footwork to dodge out on that Decimate, dodge out on that standard flag and drag combo, and Puff secures the game.
So the question I gotta ask, in Game 1 with LGD, when they made the exact same play, they traded the Elder Dragon for the Nexus teleport to an eventual Vici rush towards their own Nexus. We're not sure if it was genius or accidental, if they were actively tracking the timers to a perfect degree and knew that they wouldn't lose the game, or otherwise. In Game 2 with Vici, it ended up working out for Vici that they were able to chase it down and get the Nexus. Genius? Accident? There is an in-between. You don't quite have to. I'm asking, what do you think? Is it one or the other?
I would lean towards genius.
Okay.
I would say that if you look at the compositions, it was actually very, very difficult for LGD to get a full wipe on Vici Gaming. As long as they had members that could slip out the back in the team fights and disengage, that was enough. If you look at the comp, Sion once it uses that, and Cataclysm once it uses that, and it's pretty much done. So Vici Gaming played the fight exactly how they needed to do.
Yeah.
They kept the front line going forward, just to bring space towards Buff to make that teleport happen. And for me, that really was kind of the key play. They were going into that fight with a very specific objective. You could see that they actually backed out of the Elder Dragon pit when Condi went in. It wasn't a situation where they were like, okay, we need to fight for this Elder Dragon. We need to end it here and now. They were actually very willing to give up space, to give up even the Elder Dragon itself, just to make that play happen.
Sacrificing a bishop to take the king.
Yeah, exactly. It was a beautiful fork on that play, and I do lean more towards genius on that play. There was definitely some signs of design.
Wishy-washy, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't, because usually in the team fight, what would happen was that the side of Vici Gaming would try for a full wipe. And just try to finish the game off that, because if the fight goes longer, then you can't catch Kramer.
But that we saw them backing out so early indicates that they had a secondary plan in mind.
They definitely knew that all they needed to do was just create space for Puff, make sure he gets the teleport off, finish the game like that. Yeah.
Even though LGD were able to pop down that GA, it was still Puff who survived the fight and ends up taking our MVP after that Game 2 victory. 78% kill participation. Massive damage per gold, 171.6.
Amazing play, and it's making this series a waltz for two. It's really down between Kramer and Puff. These two 80 carries doing the majority of the work, the hard lifting for both of these squads. It's so cool to watch Puff really grow and form his identity on this team squadron. We thought that he was going to be more in line of really the hyper carries, or the big names in League of Legends like Uzi and SMLZ and iBoy, where they play the team fights out massively, flawlessly. But we really seen Puff go more for just being lane dominant and trying to edge out of an advantage in that way and play more of the picks that can contribute in terms of catches. We saw the Ashe come out in that way as well. So he's really carving out a new identity for AD carries. We're very, very strong in the lane, but later on into the game, it's more about the utility phases and the plays that he can contribute towards.
Not necessarily what the AD carry actually does, but what it can do, using the potential of the utility of the kit to zone away other people, such as the Ashe from a few days ago, now the Varus here with those chains of corruption, even the Sivir for wave control and push threat. So, like you said, it is exciting to see that. But again, it's a waltz for two right now. Kramer versus Puff. And of course, we do have to point out the two highlight support stars helping these two, not in fact referring to PYL and Southwind, but rather Jay and Ian. These two are playing an encore staff that these teams perhaps haven't seen in quite some time.
It's a very good showing for Ian. Remember, this is his debut coming over from LCK. Hasn't played a game this split until this series happening right here. And I'm impressed by, number one, the coordination with the team. The plays that they've had to make, the decisions that they had to make in this series were pretty on the edge.
Yeah.
Very difficult decisions on where you want to place your members. He had a very good one-on-one game against Jay as well, and he's also mending onto the team. It definitely feels like LGD has been screaming with him quite frequently.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of synergy that we can appear to see from LGD. They happen to be communicating rather quickly. We can see in Pick and Ban, Kramer and PYL talking about how they're planning to play the laning phase, so communication doesn't seem to be an issue for them so far. But again, that could perhaps be contributed to the years of experience that these players have overall, because again, we're looking at the old dogs from LGD. These are the experienced veterans of the LPL. Look, you got to chuckle, Clement. What's got you giggling?
That screen was pretty funny. You just see PYL, he's yawning in the background. He's like, I'm getting kind of tired. And then Kramer just flexing his knuckles.
Yeah,
he's like, I can wake you up. I've got a method.
What was it we talked about during the break? Is that Kramer is carrying the whole entire team on his back. PYL is saying, hey, can you slow down? The ride's a bit bumpy.
Yeah, we talked about Kramer being the Atlas, but instead of the world he's holding up a giant and sickly dragon with an IV and like an oxygen mask. It's like,
I smell dwarf.
I smell victory number 2.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
what LGD wanted to be smelling right now.
Yeah, well, it looks like Vici got a whiff of the exact same scent, because now we're down to that ace match, that game 3 between Vici and LGD, the big decider. And though we didn't see a huge amount of smiles from Vici immediately after their win, as they were walking off stage, we started to see some of that relief settle back in. Because remember, LGD 1-7, Vici 1-5. If either of these two teams want to make a run for playoffs, it has to start here at their opposing team at the bottom of the standings.
It doesn't matter how good your series are. At the end of the day, you need 2 wins to make it count, and that's been the problem for Vici Gaming. Great showings against the top of the leaderboard, but not enough actual wins. If they fall down here, there really isn't much to differentiate themselves between the likes of LGD.
Look at this, the LeBlanc ban gets added to the pool for LGD. They drop the Urgot, and that means that it's immediately first picked by Vici Gaming. It's still PYL.
What do you expect?
There we go. It is interesting to see the AD carry focus from LGD, so it looks like they also are acknowledging Kramer's greatness in Games 1 and Game 2.
Going for the very similar strategies. Both teams on red side have been picking up Varus. Both of them have came out with wins so far. The laning phase in the bot lane is of the utmost importance. Both of the supports in PYL and Southwind are known for their roaming, are known for their influence across the map, and if you can get that lane ahead, it just opens up the entire early game. So I like this draft from LGD. They're reading the signs of this series, and Vici Gaming, they're going to counter with what we were talking about. Puff really showcasing a different side to play the AD carry. It's all about map influence. It's about how you can use that utility to the utmost, and he's going to go with Ashe, a champion that pretty much only we see on Puff.
Yeah, he played it just a few days ago against Snake and had a stellar performance from what we saw of his play. He's the kind of Ashe who walks forward, chases the frost shots, uses volley aggressively in both lane and skirmishes. Not the kind of person who holds it back and kites with the Ashe, but rather runs you down. So we'll see whether Vici can follow up on his enchanted crystal arrows or whether or not they're going to go wide and unpunished. But LGD on the other side, they're going to turn towards the Yorick that was so effective in that game too.
Win lane, win game. It's pretty much the name of the series at this point. LGD, they're not buying that the Urgot is 100% going top lane. Jay has picked it before, a potential flex pick. So they are going to take out a number of picks that have done very well against the Yorick. The Jax is one of them. And we've seen some Riven or Renekton's go up against it as well. I want to see if LGD really want to focus in making sure that top lane gets what it wants.
Well, they've still got one ban to further target down Chelizi. So we'll see what it's going to be as the timer runs down. Interestingly enough, we're seeing Vici continuing to focus back towards Condi in the jungle, leaving Ian's champion pool rather free, which is similar to the pick and ban that we saw in Game 1, which allowed Ian that flexibility to get the Akali. It looks like this time they're not quite as concerned for it, and they're more expecting Ian perhaps to take a back seat in this game, especially considering with how Kramer is playing. But it's actually a Zac ban from LGD last, followed along with an Olaf for Condi.
This is going very deep into someone's champion
It really
pool.
is.
We haven't seen a Zac being picked by Ikes this split ever, so there might be some solo queue information that LGD are holding on to. I think the compositions are very clear-cut. Vici are very afraid of their Ashe. They don't have the Tahm Kench for protection. They're going to ban out everything that has a straight line engage onto Ashe. However, they only have 2 bans, and LGD, they're going to answer with the Skarner at this point. So it's about trading backlines at this point. Who can get the better trade? Vici Gaming are saying, we're going to catch with the Gragas, and LGD are saying, you know what, we have a much more direct route. We're going to go in with the Skarner.
A little bit more long range than the Jarvan. Much more easy to land with the Flash Impale rather than trying to flag drag Cataclysm, though that is rather effective. If Condi were looking for that Jarvan, it was banned away. Now we're looking to see the final pickup for Vici. That's going to be for Jay, likely in the mid lane, unless he decides to take that Urgot mid.
So mid lane is a bit of a worrying choice. He doesn't really have a good place to put it. If he goes, if he puts it in towards the, actually the Vladimir should be going towards the top side.
Yeah.
And I think the Urgot should be going mid. Urgot versus Yorick, a very, very bad matchup, one-sided matchup in favor of the Yorick. So I don't think Chelizi wants to be walking into that. So this is Chelizi picking up Vladimir, and the Urgot at least going mid.
And Ian saying he wants to step it up and perhaps take a carry as PYL. Oh boy. Throw that Lulu brings me back to the days of mid Lulu, EDG versus LGD, Deft versus oh gosh. This is gonna kill me. This is actually killing me. What was his name? The mid laner for LGD in 2015 summer.
Wayless?
Yes.
God
oh
V.
my gosh. The
It's
Lulu
a name
versus
that
Lulu,
people don't remember much.
Oh boy. But instead it is the Akali locked in as I have to pull myself out of memory road and onto the active Game 3 on our screens right now as Ian is going to look for the Akali into Jay's Urgot in the mid lane.
A matchup where you get pushed in early, but the Akali actually can weather the storm quite well with her sustain. 9.2, that's still a big feature about the Akali. So it's time to see what Ian is really made of. Is he going to be able to branch out and play a lot of those champions, which he didn't touch much in the LCK, or hasn't found much success in the LCK? Can he bring it and turn a new leaf in the LPL?
I love that we are seeing him embrace sort of the LPL style while also keeping his LCK flair, playing those assassins in 2 games, but also going back to the safety of those long-range mages in 1. So already Ian perhaps adapting to the new climate of the LPL here. But will he adapt quick enough? He's got 1 game here and now against Vici to deter. That was a face. Kramer might not have seen it, but we absolutely did.
Right,
PYL
that's a genuine
was
smile
very
from
focused.
Yeah. I'm at least, you know, that gives me a sigh of relief. They're not going to start hitting each other.
No,
He's going to show respect for the face of the franchise, and that, of course, is PYL.
I'm sure PYL is saving what? You think I'm going to save you in fights?
I'm going to gobble up the Yorick.
Of course, yeah. Got to keep that maiden alive. #1 priority. Regardless, we are now set to load onto the Rift for the deciding game of this match between LGD and Vici Gaming. One final time in front of the fan crowd in Hangzhou. Let's hear it. They're not playing today. It was RNG.
Game 3s are rough for everyone. I totally understand this.
Look, sometimes you get confused. Letters are different than what they appear to be. It happens to the best.
There's too many G's going around. I think that's the main problem with the chants.
There's
that if you don't hear the start of the chant, you actually are confused which team you're supposed to chant for. You just hear the G.
Though we were hearing some much louder Vici chants here in this game 3 as, oh, PYL. Oh no, and Kramer! He's got the same emote! Oh.
That's what we were laughing about.
Oh boy.
It's the synergy
Love
happening
it.
between the two.
And the best part was, I don't know if they know that they were on that ward, but they're already showing themselves up against Vici.
You pretty much expect it at this point. It's kind of like the stock standard pro gaming ward.
There we go. And that's Puff stepping forward with the volley. That's what I was talking about a little bit. He's going to try and take control of this wave really early and try to chip out the health of this Varus and Tahm Kench early on, as he is stepping up 3 minions to 1, trying to get that level 2 advantage real quick.
It is a good matchup early on for the Braum, especially against the Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench can never really walk up against the Braum, so we should expect this lane to be continuously pushed up. Just talking about the compositions overall, Vici Gaming, they have that one-shot combo that can basically blow Kramer up, or even if they go in and say the arrow lands and Devour has to be used by PYL, they have a chance to take both of them. Just with the explosive cast, if that's well timed. So a lot of tools to catch out the back line, and I think that's the reason we actually saw the Lulu hovered by Ian. He was saying, you know what, I'm not so sure that we can keep you alive, Kramer. Are you sure you don't want some extra protection, Sir Kramer?
It speaks to the confidence of Kramer, especially after Game 1 and Game 2. His fleet footwork, not the mastery, but rather his mastery over movement, over positioning in fights, knowing where the abilities and spells are going to come from. I mean, I almost lost it when he instant flashed Southwind's Galio taunt in Game 1, and he's been doing plays like that over the course of the entire series. So if his confidence is any indicator, this Akali should bode well for Ian once he starts to get a little bit more levels, a little bit more sustain up against this Urgot. Now, you did mention a little bit the Gragas participating in these ganks as well. Looks like right now he's up to level 3 and is going for a full jungle clear. I'm also excited to see how Ix is going to maneuver around the map.
For Ix, I think the 2 lanes he's looking at are the mid and the bot lane. Those are the 2 lanes he can find kills a bit easier. Again, we have an observer issue popping up on screen there. The bot side is the big one, where if you can get a early flash pre-6, it makes things so much easier. You then have the Ashe arrow on 6 to make a clean engage. Very easy to follow up on that type of play, and it also cancels out a lot of what Skarner wants to do. So I think that's going to be Ix's strategy going forward. Just get that Predator online, get the early flash, and make sure you have a clear line to make a level 6 play.
It already looks like LGD are conscientious of that play by placing the early control ward in Tribush as the wave pushes in for Kramer and PYL. So it looks like Condi is communicating with his bottom lane to maintain vision, as Ian taking a little bit of damage against Che, but just trading it right back as he heals himself up, constantly using that energy to maintain sustain in the lane.
He's outplaying this situation quite well. Typically, the Urgot should be able to get a small CS lead. Actually, he does have a small CS
Yep,
lead.
there you go.
So
1 minion, exactly. Right on, Clement, right on.
Right on. So, both sides playing this quite well. We do see, once the Urgot gets the... we see a lot of Spectral Cowls in this matchup, just so the Urgot can prevent being chipped down. And he does have a little bit more teamfight presence.
Of course, we do know Urgot to be innately more tanky than the Akali, though the damage is a lot more sustained over the course of the fight. Or if you can find a squishy carry, it's burst if you can get the full combo of shotgun knees and the fling. But Kramer has been doing a pretty good job of dodging those abilities. Ian in about the same boat, so we'll see what Jay can do. He was all over the map with that LeBlanc in Game 2. This time, he's going to be a much more, I suppose, solitary unit. One big tanky boy in the front line.
Yeah, I love tanky boys.
Yeah.
Tanky boys sound legit.
Well, you are a top laner, so I could see that happening.
Yeah, Eliza, this matchup is pretty interesting to watch because the amount of damage both sides can deal to each other is quite substantial. They also have a lot of sustain in the matchup. So what ends up happening is, it does kind of tend to become quite one-sided. If one does get the advantage, he not only gets the lane push, it just becomes a situation where he's doing more damage than you can sustain, and then his damage is also tied to his sustain, which just keeps that
snowballs and exacerbates.
Snowballs one way or the other for the matchup. But Vladimir is typically a little bit more explosive in terms of the team fights, and Lies should be looking to really punish it. This is the situation we're talking about.
Lies is actually getting some pretty good damage with those minions as immediately the Maiden is popped to push this wave into the turret. Even Condi is hanging out on this side of the map as he looks for a Scuttle Crab just in case there was an Ike's out of position to try and gank that Yorick up top and upset the Maiden. But now he's hanging around mid. Doesn't have the Impale yet. Flash engage onto Ian. He dashes away. There's the slow. He gets pulled back in. First blood to Jay.
They also get the slow, but they're not going to chase onto Condi. That was very well played by Jay. He must have landed his ultimate during the smoke screen to manage that play.
I didn't even quite see myself. I just suddenly saw Ian get hooked right back into the torture chamber of Jay's hungry maw. And Jay gets revenge for game 2. You first blood me, I first blood you.
Very well played. It was a situation where both junglers were already there. I want to see exactly where he lands the Fear Beyond Death. How does he actually get it into motion?
Oh, he landed it there, in between the autos. That was it. Auto ult while he's still stunned from the fling.
Very well timed. He actually missed the Q to start off with it, but still had enough damage to get the play down. Now, Puff does have the early level 6, so they could go in now. 2 extra ultimates.
Condi's turning onto the dragon. Ike's drops a barrel. I'm not sure if he sees that the dragon's out of the way right now. Blast Cone into the red buff and decides not to hop into the pit. LGD, they lose first blood, but Condi still got the map presence to convert an advantage as Ocean Dragon picked up for LGD. And talking about the sustained trade between Vladimir and Yorick, suddenly Lies, has to be breathing a sigh of relief.
I felt like Ike's could have gone in a little bit harder on that play. It was a situation where their level 6, there was no need to, no reason not to use that level 6 lead where you just have the extra, the ultimates to just go all in. Even if the Skarner was able to come in, he had his ultimate as well. He didn't actually use his ultimate in the previous kill towards the mid lane. So a pretty defensive play overall. I actually did expect him to go a lot harder on that.
All in all, it just puts Vici on the map and helps to equalize some of the lane pressure that they might be experiencing. Currently, they are not. Lies is happily shoving into this top lane. He's opening up a small CS advantage over Chelizi that isn't yielding too much just yet. It provides a bit more sustain for Ian in the mid lane to help keep him topped up against Jay, but already the Vamp Scepter is picked up by both Ian and Kramer to try and balance that out. But as we get towards the 9-minute mark and that Rift Herald is set to spawn, we're starting to see LGD roam around the mid lane, more specifically up towards top a bit more, to see if they can convert into some objective up there.
This is a situation where you have to take into account the effect Ashe can have in these river fights. It's very easy for Ashe, from this angle at least, to hit someone standing around the Herald buff. So LGD, they need to do a good job of keeping their eyes on Puff, so at least they can contact their teammates on the other side of the rift.
They're still just hanging out in lanes for now, though, as Chelizi clears out the Maiden, and the waves are set to equalize. Condi's actually heading down towards the bottom. The wave is crashing in. Late sweeper will clear out the ward. 6 full minions. And Ian over the wall, 4 members. Still before the 14-minute mark, so that turret plating is going to soak some of this damage here, but Southwind just brings up the door, says no damage for you.
Yeah, so we see the Ocean Drake really working in favor of LGD at this point. They can shrug off most of the poke, start roaming around. But very good understanding of the situation from Vici. They knew that mid lane was missing already, so they had a very good calculation on the fact that they could clear out the minion wave before any play could be made.
Just keep themselves safe as a result and maintain that 500-600 gold advantage that Vici are holding on to. Despite being down in CS in just about every lane, the first blood and the assist gold onto Jay and Ike's is what's really converting that into a lead for them. We'll see if they can turn that gold into items that can actually yield a result. Like you said, Spectre's Cowl picked up by Jay, which makes him more tanky and less liable to die against Ian, but will he be able to get a kill or prevent Ian from roaming? Because so far, he's keeping alive, he's keeping even in minions, but Ian's been moving up into this river between just about every wave.
To me, this is quite a slow play around the Ashe. I feel like VG Gaming don't look particularly experienced on it. The biggest advantage of the Ashe is you just want to use your ultimate off cooldown most of the times. If you can find a pick, it's absolutely great. In this situation in the bot side, you're not really looking you're not going to get pushed out of lane that hard. So,
Kramer actually gets into the Abyssal Voyage. Here comes the whole squad as it looks like we've got a team fight on our hands. They managed to find Chelizi. Condi is running out of position. Meanwhile, Lies running for the hills, gets himself knocked up. Herald is even into the action, but there goes the Devour. Lies ends up going down. Chelizi chases down Condi and finds himself the kill. 2 members of LGD are dead as PYL flashes the wall. They started the play, but they pay for it. No! Shelly resets back up to half. Piercing arrow. Southwind. Ooh, doesn't take the auto as Puff is set to finish it off. And Rift Herald picked up by Vici as they collapse and punish an unprepared LGD.
Really don't like that decision to go all in onto Chelizi at that point. Even though with the Impale and Lies being in close proximity, they didn't have the damage to finish him off. And that's a lot of members going on to the Vladimir for not a lot of gain at that point. If they wanted to make that play, they needed to make sure they could kill the Vladimir in just one shot. But Vici, on the backhand of that, are able to beat out the collapse. They pick one side. They force them into a retreat, and it's one of those reasons why flanks are so hard to play in League of Legends. You can just play it defeat by detail and just pick a side to really go on to. So if LGD wanted to do that play, they had to be 100% certain that they were going to kill Chelizi before he could get any of the healing done.
And tragically, they were not. He healed himself up and was able to chase Condi out of the fight and find himself a kill. Now 3-0, 1-0-1 on that Vladimir, 2-0 and 0 on Jay in the mid lane. So Ian, he might have been looking for the star showing the 1v1 assassin as a debut here into the LPL, but now he's got an uphill battle against Vladimir, Urgot, Gragas, Braum. His one primary target is going to have to be Puff's Ashe, who has been positioning rather immaculately in these fights, but already it looks like action in the top lane as Lies and Condi racing up to Chelizi. Have they got the burst this time? There's the Impale. He's healing up. He heals all the way up. Ducks down. Lies burning down. They will finally drop the shovel, and Lies sends him to an early grave. Meanwhile, Rift Herald used in the mid lane. Lies does not have a huge amount of wave clear, and with Puff and Southwind roaming, this is a dangerous place to be. Kramer and PYL join in, but Shelly gets a charge. The turret goes low, and it looks like this might be first brick if LGD can't walk any closer.
Now, LGD, they don't finish off their targets in time. That's the lack of damage against a Vladimir can be so deadly. And Vici with the perfect response. They know your jungler's out of position, instant 4-man grasp onto it. Even with the Abyssal Voyage, they aren't able to defend the towers in time. And I have to say that this is another one trade for Vici.
1-for-1 in turrets, mid for top, but it looks like Vici are also turning that into a mountain dragon to equalize those elemental drakes and increase their potential for more neutral objectives later on. 14 minutes into the game, Vici are the ones dictating the tempo, first by reacting to LGD and then swinging that momentum into that mid-tier 1.
The road ahead does look quite bleak for LGD. I don't think Yorick at this point is going to be able to split push up against Chelizi very effectively. It looks like the Vladimir can actually fight the Yorick one-on-one without many problems. And that's what I was talking about in the matchup. It tends to snowball one way or the other quite hard. And if you can't sustain through the other person, you tend to lose it. Just by chip by chip, you kind of get forced out of the laning phase.
Whittled down, and then eventually the turret breaks. It is a difficult matchup, though. Luckily, Lies has got his ghouls and maidens to tank for him if he's able to stay alive long enough. But at the very least, Lies can try and keep Chelizi busy. He's got teleport right now, and he's currently hovering around in the jungle as Kramer and PYL end up pushing bottom. I'm a bit curious to see what Vici decide to go for next, as there will be another Mountain Dragon in about 6 minutes, around that 21-minute mark. If they decide to look for an Ashe Arrow pick, or if Vici are content to just sit back and let the laning phase extend and give LGD a chance to equalize some of the damage that they've just lost.
I would really try to go for ganks at this point. I feel like there's a lot of lanes that are set up for quite easy ganks with the Gragas. He's going for the Runic Echo build, so lots of damage on that end. Very easy to close off targets. And LGD, they're a team composition that does need to push up a little bit. They're a pick-oriented comp. You can't do picks if you're hiding beneath your own tower.
Yeah.
So Vici should be looking for those opportunities and forcing LGD to play towards them.
Hawkshot spots out Condi and Ian. They were rushing bottom to try to get in on the action of Puff and Southwind, but they don't find it. That's the Predator from Ike's to get Condi away from this. The ward cleared out by a control ward from Vici Gaming as they just immediately swing back and return the pressure. This is a reactionary play from Vici Gaming, though they will end up taking control of this bottom lane. All in all, things stay nice and calm. Still only 1,200 gold separating these two teams.
In the chasing coming in from Jay, but doesn't look like he can actually find the play. Condi's also here. That's
some big damage. Jay chunked down to half. Condi tries to walk it forward. That's the Predator. Jay's the target. The Ignite burns down, flashes over the cask, and he goes down. Condi finds the kill. Abyssal Voyage gets Kramer in there. Smite onto the Canyon minion. It's a single minion, but still with the Maiden tanking. LGD are trying to break down that mid-tier 1. Meanwhile, Puff split pushing in the bottom lane to try and equalize the damage. LGD, they're going to continue their momentum, swinging forward with the next minion wave, getting good damage onto Chelizi. He can't walk up onto the minions. Barrel from the side, arrow catches Condi. He's going to be knocked up, saved by PYL and pulled out of this as Kramer is slowed, but the minion wave is cleared and LGD swing back, finding an opening through mid.
And Vici overplay their hand on that that scenario. Jay goes in but doesn't realize he's taking that much damage. Also a great Ignite read by Ian. Puts it down right in time because he knew his team members would be collapsing. And they put just enough damage on the Urgot to take him down in that situation. So a bit of a miscalculation by Jay, but very well done by Ian. He reads the situation perfectly. And it seems like they have this perfect counterplay to the aggression coming out from Vici.
And as it equalizes, it ends up being 1 turret for 1, mid and bottom, traded over between Vici and LGD. So despite LGD finding the kill, finding the momentum swing, and even damage on the tier 2, it's still the exact same gold difference. In fact, it's opened up a little bit more for Vici Gaming just off of the CS they were able to farm onto Puff in that solo lane. So LGD, they're still in this. They're still finding chances to swing back and open it up, but Vici are responding correctly and appropriately. As we said, they've got grit. They're remaining conscientious of what LGD can do and are reacting correctly.
The next strike is going to be big for both teams at this point. Both of them have early teamfight carry-oriented ADs at this point. So it is about which can land the better crowd control. I do still favor Vici's composition just a tad more if they want to commit for this team fight. Urgot still in one of his stronger laning phases. The Vladimir was accelerated in his build as well. So it's going to be difficult for LGD. I think what LGD need to do here is actually look for a pick before Vici really set up for the Drake. I don't think double mountains is something they really want to contend with, especially with an Ashe on Blade of the Ruin King. It just makes that Baron play too dangerous at this point.
Clement, I think that's even going to be a little bit more difficult than you hypothesized. Double Quicksilver Sash from both Puff and Southwind. So while both AD carries have got that crowd control and engage, Puff is already taking the defensive stance to try and deny any sort of picks from LGD. That Skarner Impale, that Chains of Corruption from Kramer that we now just see being used onto Ike's, is going to be completely neutralized if he finds Southwind or Puff.
That was a great force from Ike's to get that ultimate out and make sure that they're going to win the next Dragon team fight, unless there's some crazy outplays at this point.
Condi still holding on to that Impale. He's got himself the Chilling Smite if he wants to get some damage as 4 members of Vici step forward. Arrow onto Kramer on the side. He gets caught. Flash from PYL with the Devour save. Tries to pull him into the back, but only pulls him further in. Finally, Kramer is free firing, but it's not enough. Puff goes low. Piercing arrow from Kramer. Trades it over 1 for 1, but now it's up to Ian and Jay, and it's Jay who's got the health. It's Jay who's got the advantage. Flash slow onto Condi as he goes down. A double kill for Jay, and Vici win the fight.
Ian had a very good angle into the fight, but that crucial ultimate being down for Kramer really meant that he didn't have much say in the fight at all. I don't even think he had time to use most of his summoners at that point. It was just a straight Ashe arrow like we were talking about, the crucial crowd control to start the fight off, and without their main damage dealer and their hero who's been carrying them throughout this entire series, the fight goes to Vici.
And we can already see the stakes of this game. When a single arrow isn't flashed or dodged correctly, this is what it costs. 3 kills and a dragon. As we take a look again.
I want to see if Kramer was ever awake for this. He was swallowed by PYL, but as he came out, he actually did have a lot of time to deal damage. but the burst damage from Ike's and the J suddenly coming out of vision. They didn't have eyes onto that brush, so Kramer actually falls with both summoners up. Ooh, that's pretty rough. That fight could have actually gone much better for LGD. I was keeping my eyes on Ian and Puff because it felt like Puff was going to go down quite readily.
Yeah, Puff did go down because Kramer was able to get the piercing arrow snipe. With both summoners up, after the 20-minute mark, after that dragon, it could be LGD, in fact, setting their eyes on the next prize. Again, we're going to come back to the age-old question for LGD. Genius, accident. He's now got both summoners up. Condi has got Flash and Smite available, along with the Impale, as all of those cooldowns have come back up. Baron has spawned, and Vici might be getting a bit antsy as they're starting to maneuver around the pit. With both teleport available on both split laners, could this be LGD already looking at the next opportunity, already looking at the next prize?
I think you outlined a perfect scenario for LGD. They do have the summoner advantage on their carries. That means their carries can back out sooner. So if they can trade sides, make it flank for flank, each side going for each other's backline, then they should be able to win out in a situation like that. What they need to set up, however, are those wards behind Vici Gaming's front line at this point. They have a very good one situated right outside the Baron pit. And PYL just doing PYL things.
Yeah, that's not
Kramer
good.
laughing it off. Good synergy, good synergy.
That's less than ideal.
Well, sometimes you just have to take it in stride.
Yeah.
Laugh alongside with PYL. Enjoy what life is about.
It's about the journey, not the destination. Though the destination is equally important, if not more so, because this is a competitive league. But hey, he's still alive, and that ward was cleared as well. 23 minutes into the game, Baron's up, and Vici are putting pressure on that top lane. Now, Chelizi is still hanging on bottom. He's continually getting shoved in by Lies. Yorick is down about 20 CS, which should equalize the gold. Hemoplague is going to give just a little bit of health back as Chelizi gets himself topped up, but Lies happily just shoving in wave after wave. Now, Ian actually drops the early ignite onto Jay. He's burned down. Ian needs to stay alive and try to kite out some of this damage. He dodges through once, looks for a second. Condi's set to finish it off. Ian still holding on out of the smoke. Jay's still up and goes down as Kramer, along with the Abyssal Voyage from PYL, find the kill. Now, they're in front of the Baron. They've got 4 members there, but mid is completely undefended. LGD, do they look for the trade and try to control the river? Or do they try to chase down some members of Vici?
They didn't actually expend a lot here. The ultimate from Kramer is still up. I actually think this is a play where they should set up for a potential catch on someone, at least try to get all the vision, and if they just need one more catch, instant Baron play.
They do give up the bottom tier 1 so that Chelizi can keep safe distance away from Lies, just in case that teleport would need to be used. So it is a sacrifice that does ultimately pay off for LGD. They find the kill, and eventually through indirect pressure, it converts into some gold, but it's still a 1,200 gold difference between LGD and Vici, with Vici still leading, though it is LGD with a turret advantage.
I'm not seeing enough enchanted crystal arrows for this composition.
He's really holding on to it. I think he's looking for the counter team fight or team fight instead, as opposed to pick. But there we go. That's the Predator. Slow lands on Kramer. Self-slow as well with the piercing arrow, but Puff still doesn't pull the trigger.
Both sides playing this very careful, almost too careful for my liking, to be honest. I feel like you should be constantly forcing summoners just with the enchanted crystal arrow. This is, I think, the best game I've actually seen of someone play Ashe was Bebe back in the LMS.
Ian just went bottom, and he's got no teleport. Vici used that knowledge to turn onto the Baron. It's already burned down to half. Condi in the pit, son of Baron himself. What have you got? 4,500 health. There's the Maiden, plus tons of little Mistwalkers, down to 3,000 health. Abyssal Voyage, and Ian has had the time to walk up. 2,500. Still over the pit. Condi holds onto a piercing arrow. Chains of Corruption misses. Kramer knocked out of the pit. In goes Ian, diving into the back line. He's under the smoke. Southwind burning down. The fight is front to back. The flash. Hemoplague. Good damage. The Impale onto Chelizi. Can they get the burn? He manages to heal himself back up. Lots of health. PYL face first into the wall, flung back over, going down low, drops himself the shield, but will inevitably fall. A double kill to Puff, as every single ultimate has been used, but Vici are still standing. 5 members alive to the 3 of LGD. Kramer and Condi holding ground, teleport into the back from Lies. He's far away from the fight, though, and Vici back off of the Baron.
They don't want to take the 3v5. They've seen so many 3v5s go wrong, and Yorick is especially punishing when he can find you inside of the pit itself. Dark Procession cuts off the entire wave, LGD, I'm really surprised that they didn't actually capitalize on that. I thought that they were in a position to probably to take out Puff. Puff did not have the summoner advantage in that side, but Chelizi, the power of Vladimir himself, goes in, flashes in, Hemo Plague onto 4, I believe, and was able to change the situation for the better right here. You can see Ian goes in, but the Dark Procession, everything kind of blocks his way, and he doesn't really have enough damage to stop Puff at this point. PYL, the old-timer, doing old-timer things. Okay, interesting positioning, but still does fall down.
Doing old-timer things. Tripping face first into a wall. All right.
No smiles from Kramer this time.
Yeah. Kramer's dead serious on the camera, though. You got me giggling with that one. Good old I just imagine PYL as an old man now with a cane and a Tahm Kench hat. Love it. Make LGD great again. He's trying for it. But still, it's going to be through Kramer's massive damage in these team fights that ends up making LGD strong here. Ian, we saw what happened in that last fight. Dove into the back line, was able to stall it out and hunt for Puff, but didn't find the kill. And with Puff safely alive, safely behind Southwind, he was able to fire across enough damage along with Chelizi to equalize the fight so that Vici could win it and reclaim control. They're now 3,000 gold ahead of LGD. It's starting to turn into some bigger and bigger advantages around this Baron pit, but the game hasn't broken just yet. It could still go either way.
The frontline work from Vici was tremendous in that fight. Able to zone away Kramer, make sure he didn't get in the fight as soon as he needed to be. And then Chelizi with the Hemo Plague just absolutely meant that Ian was left on his own. Probably a bit of miscommunication at that point, or it was just a bad situation where he was already
team
in.
fight, I reckon.
Yeah.
Looked for the dive, but then they ended up getting split apart just a little bit too much. Ultimately, though, like we said, it's only a small gold lead for Vici. They're continuing to hold ground. LGD keeping even on the map. Next dragon will be Mountain. That should be spawning relatively shortly, though LGD did pick up the Infernal off the back of that play.
Still a situation where they could definitely come back on. I don't think the diving strategy is necessarily working out for them, though.
Well,
they can't get over the Vladimir at this point, and Ike seems to be on point with his Gragas.
Comment, they don't really have a lot of other options with that.
They could just 1-3-1 until
Akali,
the end of time.
Yeah, try to split push.
That's a situation where
against
you
Urgot,
could go
Vladimir,
into.
yeah.
Ian's fine going up against the Urgot.
You're actually absolutely right. I mean, Vici showed indecision in Game 2 when they were forced to make LGD choose between one thing and the other. LGD was quickly and decisively able to move from one side of the map, from the Elder Dragon to the Baron, and continue bouncing it back out. A lot of that was due to PYL's mobility with the Abyssal Voyage, but if Vici continue to show hesitation that LGD have not, perhaps the 1-3-1 or even the 1-4 could be an opportunity. But still, Ian, he's playing with the team right now. Hasn't quite seemed to have clued onto that just yet, though he is heading towards the top. There he goes.
Checking on the gold lead, Lies has actually found himself a sizable advantage here. Already 50 CS up into the matchup. I guess the early kill, the gank that Condi performed from him was quite useful overall. The rest of the map, however, for LGD, slight disadvantages overall. I think the play that they're looking for is trying to push Kramer and PYL far up in the mid lane enough where they can instantly just get an Abyssal Voyage into any of these side lanes. That'd be a very, very good pick. And with the teleports coming up on Lies, I think that's going to be an even bigger possibility in the future. I think that's one play they can think about.
Certainly is. The next steps for LGD are going to be difficult, though. They're pushing into a Runan's Hurricane Ashe, who's quite happily clearing out wave after wave at 3 full items. Infinity Edge now finished off along with the QSS, so Puff is going to be just fine catching these minions. I think it's going to take a lot for LGD to get to the point where they can push that far ahead. Either a massive mistake from Vici pushing Puff into a side lane, or otherwise. There's the arrow onto Condi. He's got himself flash, and even PYL is standing nearby. But hey, Vici's looking. They're fishing.
It's a very low cooldown at this point, so with the Ashe composition, just try to constantly do this.
Ooh, here's the sustain war that you were talking about. Lies getting some good damage. Blood Rush from Chelizi should equalize just a little bit, though Grievous Wounds tries to neutralize. Condi with the Predator, slow lands. Southwind in the front. He's separated from his team. Bottom tier 2 has gone down. The same time Lies is pushing, LGD continue to their own aggression.
They don't really have the engage on the Vici, so even though they dodge out on Kramer's ultimate, no follow-up of their own.
Still, Condi sitting on the side with that Impale. Ian sitting in front of the Baron, waiting for the chance to collapse if some big CC lands. He's finally been spotted out by Ikes. And still, that Maiden is pushing. Oh, wow, that was a big bop. Hemo Plague is now used, and the Blood Rush try to equalize. But Vici, they're in a desperate position here. They're turning onto the Baron out of desperation. They're burning through its health very quickly, even the heal being utilized by Condi. He's got Flash Smite, level 13 to the level 14, into the pit, knocked up, CC. Can he do enough? He's trying to get some damage across, but cannot quite find it. 200 health, early Smite, and he's picked up. Condi gets it before he goes down. The Baron secured by LGD. PYL, can he get the save on a Kramer? No, the two of them end up going down. Meanwhile, Chelizi joined the fight with a teleport. Lies is backdooring into the base, gets the inhibitor as a fair trade before backing away. Vici, though, they're going to split their resources and try to get an inhibitor of their own.
I don't think that was worth it for LGD, though. Just the inhibitor was not enough. They needed more kills, made sure that the Baron buff at least was not transferred over to the Vladimir. Like, if the Vladimir gets the Baron buff anyway, sorry, LGD actually does steal the Baron buff. My bad. LGD actually does steal the Baron buff. So all Vici get are the kills across the board. Watching that again, the big difference here is that Vici Gaming actually do send their top laner here to defend. They wanted the team fight win, they wanted a team fight wipe, and to get more out of the situation. But Condi, to his namesake, Baron the second, finds the easy kill.
I just want to point out, he smited Baron down to 123 health, and I think it was the Q at the very end. It might have been the Q or the auto attack. Sorry, I just heard from my producer, 10 HP. They rewatched it in slow-mo, and he got it.
How did he even get that? He didn't even
don't
get the
know,
smite.
because the smite was used early. It got it down to about 120, then it took some peripheral damage, and Condi got it. He's sitting in the pit right now, so true to his name, Baron the second. But still, this is LGD reacting. Yeah. This is LGD not setting the pace of the game and paying the price for it.
Well, it's actually fine, LGD. Sorry, I misjudged the situation. I thought the Baron actually went over to Vici, but with the Baron on LGD's side, all is fine. All is well done.
They're still down about 4,000 gold, and they're not exactly winning these team fights. So, as again, coming back to the point that you made earlier, if they continue to look for these 1-3-1s or these 1-4s, perhaps this strategy could continue, but we've already seen the threat of a full 5-stack of Vici rolling through LGD in these fights. Once Chelizi gets the freedom to join the fight, it is absolutely terrifying. I guess then we have to look to Lies to keep Chelizi locked down.
Oh, we do have to remember, however, Vici was a 5v4 in that situation. LGD wanted to get both objectives, and they actually were successful in getting that. So I wouldn't say that was a fair representation to how LGD could play the potential team fights out.
That's fair, yeah.
I think they probably are a bit closer. Oh, but here we go.
Ooh, there's the Devour right in the front. They managed to get the knock-up onto Ian. Southwind continues walking it forward, looking for the stun. Redemption to heal themselves. Back up. Yorick still split pushing again. The 5v4 from Vici, but that leaves Chelizi, or sorry, that leaves Lies to split and take down another tier 2 turret. And with super minions pushing in through the bottom, Baron still on for 30 seconds. LGD continue to find forward momentum in this match.
And Vici, they haven't really strung together the Ashe engages as well as they possibly could have. This definitely does not look like an experienced Ashe team to me. And did you see on the back of that fight how well Kramer was able to snipe out Puff, found a piercing arrow to the back of his head and took him down to basically half health. That really stopped the engage from Vici Gaming and set them running back towards their own base.
Already got 4.5 items. If you can get rid of that massive gold sink on Vici, LGD are going to be effectively free, aside from Chelizi, to start shoving in these lanes and breaking down those inhibitors. But it takes a lot to catch up to Puff. He's been playing at the exact same level of Kramer over the course of this match. It's only fitting that Game 3 is decided not by the 2-star 80 carries, but by the split push Yorick, Clement. It's only fair.
Yep, the top lane needs its due, and Yorick was actually banned out yesterday. We had a bug on 9.2 where Yorick actually respawned instantly when his maiden was up.
Which, not great.
Yeah, we had a public announcement, and we had to ban out Yorick from yesterday's games. Also, kind of an interesting thing is that after he resurrected instantly, he could get more maidens. So you technically could get 3 wives, which is, of course, not fair and had to be taken out.
Of course, yeah.
Just interesting tidbits here and there.
I mean, Pat's the top of this Yorick. This bad boy can hold so many Mistwalkers. Just continuing to shove in wave after wave. I used to love the old school build of Trinity Force Zerat Yorick, just for overkill. If you ever got to a turret, it was gone, was the name of the game.
I can tell you're not satisfied with the Nucleus family. I definitely want an extended family.
The nuclear, yeah.
The nuclear family.
Well, Yorick seems to be pretty happy as is. He's continuing to chase around the map, constantly splitting wave after wave. Bottom inhibitor has respawned. There's a large wave that I believe has a super minion or 2 in there as Lies steps up to try and defend it, but realizes he might be going a bit too far. Elder Dragon's up in 30 seconds, and yes, there is 1 super minion in that wave. Vici are very far forward. They're pushing in this wave in mid. Elder's up in 20, Baron's in 30.
I don't like this trade.
Ian is split pushing on the other side of the map.
Yeah, so what Vici are fishing for is they could potentially get a catch and then follow it up with the Elder Drake. But even if they get the Elder Drake, I think LGD would be able to respond with the Baron. So even in that instance, I don't think it's a correct move to set up for that play. The best case scenario is not even worth it. So I like that they're moving back a little bit, trying to defend their bases at the same time. And this is a much better situation, a much better timing to do this. And LGD, they're not in position to actually contest.
Yeah, that's teleport from Chelizi to get over towards the Elder Dragon. It's picked up. Immediately Ian and Condi turn onto the Baron, but they have not got a large head start. There's Lies split pushing bottom. He's got flash and teleport. Jay backs away, trying to hold the fort up against that Yorick. Down to 5,000 health, but here comes Vici. Vici, they've got the Elder Dragon. Chains of Corruption catches Chelizi. That's the smite secure from Condi. They need to make their way over the wall. Ian and Condi dash and flash to safety, and they walk away, splitting the Elder buffs. Now, bottom inhibitor is down as the Maiden continues to push. Lies continuing to hold attention. Flash, stun, lands onto Condi. He goes down. Ian manages to get out of this one. Enchanted Crystal Arrow about to come off cooldown right now. But Puff doesn't have a target to look for unless he blind fires at bottom. He's dropping the pings. He's dropping the pings. He's saying, on my way.
Can he find it? He's still holding on
Lies
to
is
it.
running. There's a redemption. Oh, right there.
But can he actually still get away from this
fast
here as well?
They are real fast. That's the cask. Lies gets caught, and Lies goes down. Puff gets handed over the kill, the shutdown, and all of that gold right into his pocket. Immediately teleports into the mid lane to catch the minion wave because Baron is still up for 3 minutes.
Yeah, to take stock of the situation, LGD still have 3 members with the Baron buff. They can still effectively side lane split push with Ian, but they're not going to be able to do it with Lies anymore. So overall, I give Vici a lot more advantage in this situation. They have the minion waves pushed out. That was actually quite a clever teleport just to make sure the minion wave was in place to continue a push. And even if this one doesn't work, they can transition themselves back towards the bot lane.
Just holding on to these waves as LGD now no longer able to do the 1-3-1 with the death of Lies. Instead, looking for a 1-3 defense. But with the triple mountain, they push onto the inhibitor turret. Jay happily tanking up all of this damage. He is a beefy, beefy boy.
Triple mountains already for Vici as well.
Flash engage. PYL pulls Kramer back in out of the fight. There's the Chains of Corruption. They find Southwind. He cleanses out of this, but the inhibitor goes down. Condi's on the side, has the Impale ready. Lies is back up, but Vici, they've got a minion wave. They might be trying to end this, as again, they've got 15 seconds on the timer. They find Condi in the front. Kramer's in the back. They're looking for the auto attack. Kramer's still alive. He's burning down, and that's finally the assassination into the back. LGD try to set their back against the wall, but the wall cannot support them. Lies pulled back onto the fountain, but he and Ian are the sole survivor. Ian's backdooring on the other side of the map. He's under the Nexus turret. It's a race. It's a base race. Ashe is going to try to burn it down. Look at the damage. Chelizi is in the pool. He can't attack. Puff is doing what he can. Puff goes down low and drops Vici. seconds away. Sigh with relief as they take the base race win against LGD.
What an amazing game to finish off this amazing series. Vici Gaming, they learned so much here. They've grown up. They learn how to play the macro game. They learn about the tough decisions you have to make down when you have two objectives staring at you, and they were willing to go for the throw. That's the biggest thing about this. A lot of young teams in that situation, they would stammer and they would have trouble in deciding which way they wanted to go, but not Vici Gaming. They found their opportunity. They said, we're taking this 5v4. They find Kramer after he already burned his flash, and they finish the ordeal.
And with a bow, finally Vici get to take their position center stage with their second series victory of the 2019 spring split. With some sighs of relief, they were looking real concerned after game one. Very, very serious. Even after the game 2 victory, we saw nary a smile from these 5 members. But finally, with the backdoor race, we come back to the age-old question for LGD, and this time I think it applies to Vici as well.
That was so insane. I didn't expect Vici to finish the game right then and there. I felt like they were in a weaker position. Remember, LGD just had the Baron buff. They still had the Baron buff on 3 members of the team. They should have been able to hold it with the enhanced minions, but Vici Gaming, they had the idea of going for continuous catches off the back of that. You could see them force out the flash earlier when they thought PYL was out of position. They got that first flash, and then they continued. Even through the enhanced minions, they were able to close the game out.
Yeah, it was real close. That's, I think, the difference of the game. Ian gives up first blood, doesn't get to snowball on the Akali, doesn't get the massive crit items, or sorry, big items that the Akali needs, and it comes down to a matter of seconds in terms of the overall cost of that build differential between the Urgot controlling the mid lane and eventually snowballing to Puff, and it was Chelizi on the Vladimir. 2 versus 1 to stall it out.
Yeah, that's just one of those situations where you hate being a hybrid champion.
Yeah.
Because it's really the most inefficient build to deal damage to Nexuses. And you could see the despair in Ian. He was like,
yeah, he's just,
I'm actually ahead. I'm hitting on the Nexus first.
Yeah.
And at the end, he had to teleport because he knew he couldn't finish it in time.
Yeah, well, that said, we're going to go and take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We've got our next matchup, Rogue Warriors versus BLG, coming at you in 2 quick minutes.